We are at our client's huge warehouse here in North Las Vegas. It's 250,000 square feet. Our scope of work for this project includes installing 15 new access points up in the rafters. With those 15 access points, we have to build out the bracket, we have to attach the AP to that bracket, and we have to attach the antenna to that bracket. For each of these access points, we also have to run cables to each one. That includes terminating them on the AP side and terminating it in the IDF or in the node. We also have to rotate 13 antennas up in the ceiling to help out the Wi-Fi coverage. And finally, we have to swap out 5 APs on the mezzanine level from directional access points to omnidirectional access points. We got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of walking to do. Let's go to work. Let me show you how we did it. Here we are at one of the IDFs. The IDF has 6 APs going to it that we installed. Currently, they're all working and up and online. For the 6 that were installed, we have 2 back there in that corner. We have 1 over here that we installed. We have 3 more out here. We got lucky with some of these because of the J hooks or the hooks that were previously installed for the other runs. We'll take a look at that. Here we are at the top of the node. You can see the cable being managed going down this pipe. You can also tell that it's not cable managed properly, but luckily all this cable is white, so it blends in pretty nicely from the ground. We didn't install any of this old cable. The 6 access points we did install, we tried our best to keep it as neat as possible. We had these circle hooks or J hooks installed already for the existing cable, so it made it a lot easier for our runs. They were in a majority of places that made it a lot easier, so we got away with that. They had these circle ones and they also had like regular J hooks there. So let's go check out an access point. So here is an actual fully built access point that we have installed. Here we have the antenna, the bracket, and the access point itself, and the bracket mounts to this beam. We left a nice service loop. This is where a little junction box where the cable terminates. This cable runs all the way back to that node that we were at earlier. As you can tell, this warehouse is huge, and you can also see that there's a lot of stuff on the ground. This made it a little difficult for us to run our lines because we constantly had to ask the staff here to help us move things so that we could run our lines. Luckily, once they moved it, it made it a lot easier for us. But here is a access point, 15 of them mounted throughout the warehouse that we installed freshly. We have 2 more or 3 more going this way. We had to go over this shelving. That made it a little difficult. That's all of the access points that we have. There's 15 that we installed, more of the same of just this and a run back to the node. There's 4 nodes here, pretty much 1 in each corner, which I think isn't enough, to be honest, because this is a very big space and some of our cable runs were getting close to 300 feet back there. There was one all the way back there that had to run all the way to this node. You know, you're pushing it if you don't want to go over 300 feet. Luckily, we were under and the access point came up okay. But I've seen cases of contractors running cables, you know, well over 300 into the 400 feet range, and it always causes a lot of issues. And you're wondering why our access points don't work, and you're like, well, it's because the cable is way too long. Let's go check out some more stuff. This one only has 2 new APs that we ran cables to. We have the cables coming down from the rafters right into the node. Like I said, we got 2 APs or some J hooks up in the rafters for us. Wherever we didn't have a J hook, we used zip ties. And we also got lucky with this one because our access point was right here, so that was a short run. Let's go check that access point out. So here's the access point near our IDF that we were just looking at. Pretty standard like the last one I showed you guys. But the cable run for this one comes up here along this beam and then on this rafter. This rafter has J hooks on it. So we just follow the path of whatever was existing down here and down to the node right there. So the other AP that connects to this IDF comes up the beam, of course, joins the path like the rest of the cables, and it follows some J hooks that go all the way down to the wall. Our access point is all the way down there, another aisle or 2 over. Here we are in the mezz level. This is where we had to swap out directional access points for omnidirectional. We had to swap out 5 up here. I'm gonna show you guys an example of one. I don't know if you can see that. There's a blue light, and when there's a blue light, usually for Cisco access points, that means there's a client connected for default settings. So that was a directional AP, basically the same ones that were outside at the warehouse, on the big warehouse area. So we swapped that out. We put an omnidirectional. It actually covers this area a lot better, I think, because the aisles are a lot lower. So it actually probably works better for this area compared to shooting directionals down. And you need a lot more directionals to shoot down this area. So the mezz is a pretty good size. Like I said, we installed 5 more, or we swapped out 5 throughout this area, and that 5 access points, we ended up using them for the warehouse. and we had to relabel them according to the AP numbers that they had or they picked out that was outlined during the scope of work. So that's it for this job walkthrough. I didn't get to film as much as I normally do during our work because this time I really had to get this job done and make sure that we get it done on time. We had a tight deadline for 2 days to get all these access points installed and mounted and cables ran. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys follow along on the next one.